Without a doubt, this past year has been the most challenging one ever. I can still remember receiving that phone call saying we had our first positive case of COVID-19 and seeing the impact it had on our city is something I will never forget. We are hereby declaring a state of emergency in our city effective immediately.
We will also be directing hospitals to postpone elective surgeries to ensure medical workers and hospital space is available.
As I have said, we will make it through this.
Malden will get through this.
We are connected to each other, and it's together that we will prevail.
It is only fitting that we begin our departmental review with the Health Department. I believe Health Director Chris Webb is in the waiting room.
Good morning, Mayor.
Chris, as we look back on 2020, it was not only a year of challenges, but also one of hardship and heartbreak.
Yes, sadly and unfortunately, we've lost 117 of our residents to this deadly pandemic, and nearly 6,000 have gotten sick from it.
Our thoughts and prayers are with all the families impacted. These are difficult times, but there is hope.
Yes, our cases are trending downward, and we are now designated a yellow or moderate risk community. Thankfully, there is also now a vaccine, and we are working hard to get supplies and make sure that residents can get vaccinated as soon as we can.
The Health Department, led by Director Chris Webb, continues to lead us through this unprecedented crisis along with our first responders, healthcare professionals, and all other essential workers. Without any type of playbook or past experience to rely on, the department tackled this crisis head-on by working to keep our residents, employees, schools, and our businesses safe. They spent time not only learning about the virus, but also learning about testing protocols, safety precautions, contact tracing, how to analyze data, and now the vaccine. The staff worked to provide regular updates, and Director Webb was a featured panelist on my MATV COVID-19 update show. As more of us get vaccinated and look forward to the end of this pandemic, we are grateful to Chris and his staff, as well as the Board of Health, for all they have done and continue to do to keep us healthy. As the virus spread across the Commonwealth, we were faced with many other critical issues. Racial injustice, job loss, food insecurity, housing instability, and business closures were at the forefront of it all. The horrific murders of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and unfortunately many more were pivotal moments in our history and demonstrated, once again, that racism and injustice persist in our society. Make no mistake, systemic racism has always been an issue, and it is horrible that it takes tragedy after tragedy for our nation to see it, feel it, and know that it is truly real. Our community came together during this time to not only mourn, but also to act. Organized by local youth activists, a rally of more than 1,000 people marched from Malden High School to Lincoln Commons, where speakers shared their anger, their call to action, and their hope for change. Other rallies across the city continued to keep the message and momentum going and showed that Malden's values are on the side of justice and human rights. These conversations also reminded us about the reality of the systemic work we have to do as a community to overcome the continued obstacles that immigrants and people of color encounter. In June, I announced the Unite Malden 2020 initiative, consisting of 5 specific steps aimed at addressing racial inequity, including officially declaring racism a public health crisis and recognizing Juneteenth as an official holiday in the city of Malden. The term Unite Malden is intended to convey our shared vision of beginning to eliminate barriers and obstacles, addressing prejudices and discrimination head-on, and embracing our role as a city where every resident is respected, treated fairly, and included in all aspects of government. A welcoming and inclusive community where participation and communication is open to all has always been and will continue to be my vision for Malden. An important goal of our initiative was to establish a diversity, equity, and inclusion position at City Hall. The creation and funding of this new position was fully supported by the City Council, and we are pleased to announce that we have completed interviews and that we offered the position to Bibios LaRochelle, who will be starting with us in the next few weeks. Bibios is fluent in Haitian Creole, brings a varied background to the role, and is familiar with the diversity challenges within Malden. Thank you to Malden Corps, GMAC, and Mass Senior Action for their input and participation in this selection process. To build on and strengthen our commitment even further, I am proud to be working with the Malden High School Students for Racial Equity and the members of our school committee to establish a diversity, equity, and inclusion position as part of our public school system as well. In order to be truly inclusive, we need to make sure that the staff we are hiring represents our student population and that they are welcomed and nurtured in our schools. We need to make sure the curriculum that we are teaching resonates with our students and is inclusive of a range of voices and perspectives. And we need to make sure we are not just talking about culturally responsive practices, but also getting our staff truly meaningful training. Together, we can make that happen. Finally, also as part of Unite Malden 2020, we answered the Obama Foundation's call to action by signing the Reimagining Policing Pledge. The pledge seeks to engage the community in reviewing our police department's use of force policy. An advisory group for Obama's pledge was formed and consists of community members with varied experiences and backgrounds. They have reviewed the policy and drafted recommendations of proposed changes that will be shared in the coming weeks through an online form as well as a public forum. The goal is to garner community input on the draft recommendations for AGOP's consideration when completing their final report. As we reflect on 2020, most amazing has been watching people come together. We saw Maldonians and local organizations from every corner of our community come out to help one another. Bread of Life organizing and delivering meals, the YMCA assisting with food and grocery distribution, and Malden Neighbors helping neighbors connecting those in need with resources are just some examples. We also worked with the Malden Redevelopment Authority, or MRA, the City Council, and the Community Preservation Committee to implement 2 programs that help stabilize Malden residents as well as businesses affected by the economic downturn. Our rental assistance program was funded with $250,000 in Community Preservation Act funds and $500,000 in CDBG funds secured through the CARES Act. We also launched a micro-enterprise program to help businesses with the most acute needs and with the largest obstacles to other types of assistance. These initiatives helped hundreds of households stay in their homes and protected small businesses across the city from closure. As was featured in this Sunday's Boston Globe, our team continued to respond to the increased housing needs of our community. Another example is the use of an additional $500,000 in CARES Act funds to establish an eviction prevention program. The MRA, led by Alex Pratt, in partnership with Housing Families, Inc. and Justice Start Corporation, provided those facing eviction with court-based mediation, legal aid, and rental assistance in both the District Court and Housing Court. In addition, this past December, using $500,000 in CARES Act funds, we were able to establish another rental assistance program with the goal of eliminating a tenant's 2020 rent debt. The city, MRA, and Housing Families secured tenant protections and negotiated concessions with participating landlords. We also issued an executive order to establish a moratorium on eviction execution in the city and created an eviction prevention information hub that can be found on our website. To further address housing needs, Housing Families recently opened the first ever Malden shelter for homeless individuals at the Oyo Hotel on Broadway. This was made possible with the assistance of our state delegation, who helped secure funding through the State Department of Housing and Community Development. This initiative was supported by Ward 8 City Councilor Jadine Seeker and was a true collaboration between Housing Families, the City of Malden, the MRA, and several nonprofit partners, including Bread of Life, Elliott Community Human Services, the Malden Warming Center, ABCD, Mass Housing and Shelter Alliance, and Metro North Housing. Finally, we are pleased that despite the pandemic, the Malden Warming Center is in its 3rd year of working to provide a warm space for those experiencing homelessness. We continue to be thankful to Pastor Jerry Whetstone for opening the doors of the First Church of the Nazarene to provide this vital service to the community. I can tell you firsthand that serving the center is a very humbling and rewarding experience. As you can see, we came together as a community to help each other through these unprecedented times. I want to also recognize the hard work of our city employees who continue to deliver services to our residents using every means possible. It is their commitment that kept us moving forward, and as a result, the state of our city remains strong. One bright spot amid the crisis was the completion of our new City Hall. Although not the celebration we envisioned, last June 8th, Pleasant Street officially reopened to through traffic for the first time since the construction of Malden Government Center closed off the street in the mid-1970s. City officials joined me to celebrate with a socially distant parade of vehicles passing through our traditional red ribbon. Shortly thereafter, we were excited to finally move city operations from our temporary locations at 17 and 110 Pleasant Street into our new building. Led by Ron Hogan, Eric Rubin, the Director of Public Facilities, and Anthony Rodriguez, the Director of IT, the team worked tirelessly to make sure the move was accomplished without a disruption to services. As of today, the building is open by appointment only, and we can't wait for the day that we are able to welcome all of our residents into the new building. Eric, I was just mentioning your department in our move to 215 Pleasant Street.
Oh, good morning, Mayor. I just wanted to make you aware that all of our offices and common areas have been sanitized and we're ready for the return of our employees.
Eric, I think you have some kind of video filter on.
Sorry, my kids must have put it on. I have no idea how to shut this off.
Okay. During this pandemic, Not only has public facilities cleaned and sanitized our buildings on a regular basis, but they have also worked to make sure that all employees had enough masks, disinfectant cleaners, and a constant supply of hand sanitizer. Also, the department's mechanical team, led by Ron Lassard, has been able to upgrade and improve our air filtration in all city buildings in order to maximize ventilation and increase indoor air quality. In addition, as a designated green community, Malden qualified for competitive grants which helped fund energy efficiency and renewable energy projects. Last September, led by Public Facilities Director Eric Rubin and City Councilor Dave Kamel, along with Malden's Energy Efficiency Commission, we were awarded another state grant in the amount of $165,000 for boiler replacements at the Forestdale and Beebe schools. We were also excited to announce the installation of electric vehicle charging stations across the city. Director Rubin and the Energy Efficiency Commission worked with National Grid to obtain significant incentives to install these stations. Now let's meet with some of the other departments. I believe Fire Chief Bill Sullivan is in the waiting room. Good morning, Chief. Did you ever envision that your first year leading the department would be during a global pandemic?
No, Mayor, I couldn't have imagined it. Fortunately, our department has risen to meet the challenge as we always have. The members have received the vaccine, and we're hoping that the worst of this pandemic is behind us.
We held 2 swearing-in ceremonies on City Hall Plaza to promote 10 officers and welcome 5 new firefighters. At one of the events, Bill Sullivan, a lifelong Malden resident and third-generation firefighter, was officially sworn in as the fire chief. He has already proven to be an innovative leader and strong advocate for the department. It was his perseverance, along with that of Captain Eric Diavola, that brought in 2 federal grants secured through FEMA. The first grant awarded over $208,000 for the purchase of 30 portable radios. This will allow every firefighter to maintain communication capabilities with each other, the department's communications center, and the offices of other communities. The second grant awarded nearly $17,000 for the purchase of equipment that will be utilized by the department's fire investigation unit. In addition, we were also pleased to announce the arrival of a new engine and ladder truck. The ladder is equipped with a 100-foot aerial ladder, an assortment of portable ground ladders, and a Jaws of Life tool. The total cost is nearly $1.5 million, and thanks to the assistance of Controller Chuck Ranigan, these 2 new pieces of equipment were acquired under a lease-to-own agreement with payments being spread out over the next 5 years. Despite COVID-19, the department also continued its charitable work not just in Malden, but also outside of the community. After reading about the horrific fires on the West Coast, Chief Sullivan and Assistant Chief Lenny Dunn discovered that one of the towns, Malden, Washington, was named after our city. Chief Sullivan immediately wanted to help and partnered with the Malden Lions Club and other nonprofits to send more than $2,000 worth of gift cards to the residents there. Finally, in August, I joined Chief Sullivan and Commissioner Emery Haskell to pay tribute to 6 Malden firefighters who assisted the city of Revere during a 3-alarm fire. Upon arrival, Malden's Engine 4 and Ladder 1 encountered an intense fire at the rear of a large residential building. Lieutenant Sean Cadigan, along with firefighters Christopher Sheridan, Dennis Morricone, and Robert Ryan, worked together to rescue a trapped individual from a window and direct him to safety. We commend the firefighters' selfless actions and thank them and all the members of our department for always answering the call to service whenever and wherever it may occur. Police Chief Kevin Molis is standing by.
Good morning, Your Honor.
I am grateful for the continued hard work of the men and women of the department. I know all of you represent our city well.
Thank you, Mayor. In the area of crime, our statistics and the positive public feedback continue to show that for an urban city of our size, Malden continues to be a very safe place to live, work, worship, and to invest in.
During the past year, when the conversations about police actions, practices, reforms, and accountability were taking place, as part of an ongoing process of identifying and implementing the best law enforcement practices, our police department was able to show their commitment in these important matters by implementing the carrying of a new, less lethal and potentially life-saving taser device. We are also making it a priority to engage in constructive dialogue with both police unions to achieve the mutually shared goal of implementing body cameras. Another significant advancement was the designation of Sergeant Mike Powell as the Civil Rights Officer for the department. He will serve as the liaison between the department and the community in all civil rights matters. In addition, with the assistance of City Councilor Peg Crow and partnering with Elliott Community Human Services, we were able to secure grant funding that will provide mental health and crisis intervention training, as well as a licensed clinician who will be integrated within the department and assisting officers. This collaborative effort is the first step toward a jail diversion program. Finally, I want to thank crime analyst Dave Ritchie for working alongside our addiction recovery resource specialist Paul Hammersley to tackle the ongoing opioid epidemic. They meet on a regular basis to review and strategize on ways to support families who are faced with addiction. Our next call is with City Clerk Greg Lucy, who we know had a very busy year.
Good morning, Mayor. And as you know, we did have a busy year in 2020. We were pleased at how well the presidential and state elections went, with the majority of our residents taking advantage of early voting and how we are probably going to vote in the future, the mail-in ballots.
In the midst of COVID-19, as well as the move to the new City Hall, City Clerk Greg Lucy, Registrar of Voters Carol Ann Desiderio, and the entire office staff worked to ensure that Malden voters could fully participate in the democratic process in a safe, efficient, and convenient manner. For both the primary and general elections, the office quickly set in motion the steps needed to accommodate extended early voting, the inclusion of mail-in ballots, and the implementation of COVID-19 safety protocols at all of our polling locations. In step with the Federal Voting Rights Act, the City Clerk's office also focused on making voting more accessible to our Chinese-speaking residents. Specifically, Clerk Lucy and I met regularly with organizations such as Greater Boston Legal Services and the Greater Malden Asian American Community Coalition, along with representatives of other advocacy groups. Following the November election, these collaborative efforts paid off, as Malden was noted as a model for other cities and towns in working with community groups to increase limited English-speaking voters' rights. The city was issued a voting rights report card by the Asian Pacific Islanders Civic Action Network that applauded the hiring of Crystal Lamb, who is fluent in both Mandarin and Cantonese. The report card also highlighted the use of more Chinese language signs in polling places and the creation of bilingual videos, voting materials, and postings on WeChat, a social media platform popular in the Chinese American community. Although we have made great strides, there is more work to be done. Improving language access, especially in an area as important as voting, is essential. Moving forward, we plan to include transliterations of candidates' names on ballots and train poll workers in voting rights and ballot access. Let me see if I can queue up Veteran Services. Kevin, are you there?
Oh, good morning, Mayor Christenson.
Hi, Martha. Is Kevin available?
Oh, Kevin's having a little trouble logging on right now.
Oh, sorry about that. I've been recertifying all my clients, and everything's going really well.
During this crisis, Veteran Services Director Kevin Jarvis made sure someone was always available to respond to our veterans and their families. The office continued to process benefits and claims and partner with other agencies to make sure housing and food needs were being met. Even though we had to be socially distant, Director Jarvis still remembered those who served and continue to serve our country. On Memorial Day, in lieu of our annual parade, we honored our fallen heroes in unique ways. First, despite canceling our traditional ceremony, Cemetery Director Jim Cahill and his staff still made sure to place a flag at the grave sites of over 2,000 veterans. In addition, similar to the trend of families taking porch photos, residents were invited to take a photo while holding up a keepsake such as a picture of a family member who served, a sign, a flag, or other patriotic decoration. The video was shared on the city's social media channels as well as on MATV. These events were followed by a virtual Flag Day ceremony organized with the assistance of Ward 1 City Councilor Peg Crow in a Veterans Day video that included a tribute to those in Malden who have served our country. And finally, we are making good progress on the creation of a monument to honor those who served in the Vietnam and Korean Wars. The memorial will be located at Forestdale Cemetery and is only made possible thanks to the great efforts of our controller Chuck Ranigan and Cemetery Director Jim Cahill. The goal is to have an unveiling this Memorial Day, and we hope we can do this in person. I've just been made aware that Library Director Dora St. Martin is in the waiting room. Dora, from what I understand, you and your staff have had no downtime during the pandemic.
You're right, Mr. Mayor. The library has been very busy with remote services and curbside delivery, and we hope for the day everyone can return to the library when it's safe to do so.
From the virtual 2020 National Library Card sign-up featuring Wonder Woman created by Malden's own William Marston, to hosting Coming to America with the Immigrant Learning Center, to holding Senator Edward Markey's Victory Press Conference, even in COVID times, the library still serves as a community hub. In addition to a curbside pickup service, the library staff also found many creative and innovative ways to support our residents. They put together a Navigating Life Under COVID resource guide, offered free online English classes, hosted virtual movie nights, and presented sensory nature walks. I was lucky enough to participate in a Mayor's Storytime event as well as celebrate Diwali. The library also worked on various initiatives and improvement projects. A grant from Preottle and Lane helped to support summer reading programs. Funds from John Gizo and John Preottle assisted in expanding art galleries. And an Adelaide Breed Baird Foundation grant funded $60,000 to add 3 new study rooms. Finally, through a Malden Cultural Council grant, banners highlighting historic businesses in the city will be used as part of this year's 130th anniversary of the Chamber of Commerce. And if this were not enough, all Malden High School yearbooks have been digitized via Digital Commonwealth and can now be accessed from the library website, although I wish they hadn't included this picture. Speaking of Malden High School, let's have a look at what's going on in our schools. I believe Superintendent John O'Teary is on the call.
Yes, Mayor. Like you said, this has been a year like we've never seen before, but we are making it work. We've welcomed back our highest need students in October, and in February, we welcomed back our pre-K through grade 2 students. We look forward to the return of all of our students in the next 2 months.
Last spring, COVID-19 forced our schools to shift to remote learning almost overnight. Our educators had their world turned upside down and had to completely rethink how to teach, how to connect with students and families, and how to make sure kids were both safe and learning, and they rose to the challenge. Within days of the shutdown, Chromebooks from our classroom inventory were repurposed to ensure that each family had at least one device. This would not have happened without the work of city and school officials, along with the assistance of Malden Neighbors Helping Neighbors, who stepped up to deliver these devices to nearly 650 families. New Chromebooks were also ordered, and despite delivery issues due to high demand, Assistant Superintendent Kelly Chase and School Business Manager Tony Mertz came through with an order of 3,500 Dell Chromebooks. Thankfully, After a lot of hard work by our school and union leaders, our highest needs special education students were able to return to school in a hybrid model this past October, and they were recently joined by students in grades pre-K through 2. We were excited to recently announce that our students in grades 3 through 12 are all slated to return to the classroom in a hybrid model over the next few months. Our biggest hope is that come September, all of our students will be back in school. Because of the pandemic, food insecurity was also an issue for our families. The district worked hard to ensure that students in kindergarten through 12th grade were provided with breakfast, lunch, and dinner at grab-and-go stations around the city. And just this past December, we announced that the district had been awarded a food security infrastructure grant in the amount of $110,309 for the purchase of a food truck. I am grateful to School Business Manager Tony Mertz and the innovative thinking that has resulted in this award, which will allow us to serve a greater number of families throughout the city. In addition, working with our school committee and state leaders, led by Senator Jason Lewis, Ms. Mertz was also able to have Malden certified as a Community Eligibility Provision District, which means not only does every single one of our students now have access to meals for free, but all families, not just families eligible for free and reduced lunch, were able to receive a pandemic benefits assistance card from the state with funds that could be used for groceries. A particular highlight for the year was the send-off of our 2020 high school graduates. Seniors had already missed out on traditional activities such as the prom, field trips, and recognition ceremonies. Our school committee, city council, and parents pitched in and ordered yard signs for each Malden graduating senior. And virtual parades were organized to let students know how proud we were of their accomplishments. And of course, we waited for the right time to have our seniors graduate with the pomp and circumstance they deserved. Speaking of accomplishments, we want to recognize 4 seniors of the class of 2021 who are receiving full 4-year scholarships to colleges and universities. Congratulations to Posse Scholars Elaine Dew, who will be attending Union College, Talis Canero Passos, who is heading to Bucknell University, and Anna Dorner, who is going to Center College. In addition, through the Questbridge National College Match Program, Tran Tun No was accepted to Princeton University, which was her first choice. These 4 and all of our graduating seniors can attribute some of their successes to the support and learning they had in our classrooms thanks to our amazing teachers. We know that Malden educators are some of the best in Massachusetts, but it was especially exciting this year to see one teacher in particular, Jennifer Hedrington from the Ferryway School, be recognized by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts as Teacher of the Year. Anyone who knows Jen knows how lucky her students are to have been taught through her lens of love, and our entire community celebrated her accomplishment with her. Lastly, we were informed that Superintendent John O'Terry will be moving on at the completion of his contract in June. We are grateful to him for his leadership and commitment to the Malden school community over the last 4 years and wish him all the best in his next endeavor. As chair of the school committee, I established a search committee for our next educational leader, spearheaded by school committee members Jen Spatafora and Adam Weldi. This committee is comprised of 14 stakeholders representing one of the most inclusive and diverse committees the Malden Public Schools has ever had. In working with the Collins Center, we received a record 37 applicants for this important position. After much thoughtful deliberation, the committee announced their 3 finalists for the position, and we look forward to involving the community over the next few weeks to choose our next superintendent of schools. While on the topic of youth, let's switch over to Kathy McMullen, who runs the Teen Enrichment Center. Kathy, are you there?
Yes, Mayor, I'm here. If you guys don't get out of this Zoom right now, I am calling your parents.
Wow, nice job, Kathy. I know that despite the teen center being closed, you have been relocating the program and helping out where needed.
Yes, and we're also working on some new programs and activities with the hope that we will open the center in the spring.
Even in these COVID times, the staff and youth of the Malden Teen Enrichment Center, also known as MTEC, have been active in the community by helping out and staying involved. They participated in the Black Lives Matter March, helped organize a socially distant 100th birthday for a former teacher in the Malden Public Schools, served as greeters in the City Hall lobby, and on a regular basis helped the Bread of Life by organizing and delivering food to seniors. It was a bit unsettling when we learned that 1 Salem Street, the home of MTEC, was to be demolished. But MTEC coordinator Kathy McMullen immediately went into high gear to find a new location. After considering several sites, sharing the use of the senior center became the best option. Now that the new City Hall is operational, the building will no longer be used for public meetings, and given the scheduling of the 2 programs, they can coexist with little to no changes to their routine. We are excited about the opportunity this presents for intergenerational activities, which have been very successful and enjoyed by our seniors in the past. The hope is that one of these activities will involve ping pong, since we are reintroducing the game to the center with the purchase of 2 new tables. In speaking of our seniors, there is little doubt that they have been hit particularly hard. Not only are they considered most vulnerable to the virus, but they are also facing isolation with little to no interaction with relatives, friends, and each other. Although we would like to open the center, we will not do so until it is safe based on public health guidance from the Malden Board of Health and state health officials. However, the Senior Center staff is available by phone to assist in providing support and resources. In the meantime, to keep everyone connected and engaged, we have recently turned to remote programming and cable offerings. Last month, we aired fan favorite Dance Caliente that featured the history and lessons of popular dances through decades. We now also offer virtual classes with some of the Senior Center's favorite instructors. These programs include yoga, Tai Chi, resistance training, core and balance, and chair exercise programs, and are now aired on UMA, formerly MATV, Monday through Friday between 8 a.m. and 2 p.m. Simply tune in to Comcast Channel 22 or Verizon Channel 26. I believe Building Commissioner Nelson Miller is now standing by.
Good morning, Mayor.
Am I to understand that despite the pandemic, building permits have actually increased over the past year?
That is true. We are ahead by hundreds of applications.
That is impressive, but not surprising, as our Inspectional Services Department, under the leadership of Nelson Miller, was committed to uninterrupted service despite COVID-19. The development of online permitting software prior to the pandemic advanced their capability to receive, review, and issue permits entirely remotely without the need for in-person contact or paper filings. Permit applications can be made online with the ability to attach the required plans and all other submission documents. Payment for the permit can also be made electronically, and once the permit is issued, the applicant can print out the permit card to be displayed at the property. These systems no longer require the submission of paper documents, and everything is accessible and viewable by the public through the Community Access Portal. To further assist during COVID, administrative and clerical staff were equipped with laptops and a verified personal network so that all phone and electronic communications could be maintained remotely. The inspectors shifted to the use of their cellular phones as their primary form of communication, which facilitated the timely response to requests received. They also never stopped performing inspections, not even for one day. They showed extreme caution in their interaction with property owners, contractors, tenants, and business owners, and followed all required safety protocols. FaceTime calls were also utilized when possible, to limit in-person contact. This approach facilitated the issuance of 3,342 permits and the performance of 3,527 inspections from March 1st, 2020 to date. In partnership with the MRA, led by Evan Spatrini, Nelson Miller also assisted in securing a $100,000 grant from the Massachusetts Neighborhood Hub Collaborative. This will allow for the hiring of a housing inspector who will investigate vacant, foreclosed, and abandoned homes. The goal is to collaborate with developers to purchase and rehabilitate these properties in order to rent or sell them as deed-restricted affordable housing to income-qualified households. This initiative is in line with Malden's commitment to create and preserve more affordable housing. Do I understand that DPW Director Bobby Knox and our city engineer Yam Lip are on the line?
I am here, Mayor. Where is Bobby calling from?
Bobby, are you hearing us?
No, I'm paying attention, yeah.
All right, Yam, go ahead.
We were able to complete 271 full lead line replacements, which exceed the Mass DEP annual requirement of 150 per year.
Excellent. And Bobby, what are your goals for the year?
Yeah, no goals. Ryan's got a shutout going.
I want to commend Glenn Caller in the City Engineering Department and John DeSantis in the Water Department for their commitment to remain proactive in moving our replacement program forward despite this year's challenges. The efforts of these two departments is helping us achieve our goal of eliminating all lead service lines in the shortest possible amount of time. In regards to infrastructure, last November, we proposed a $6 million roadwork project intended to focus on neighborhood streets across the city and expand on the work that has already been occurring. Over the past 8 years, we have been focused on replacing aged and crumbling water mains and lead service lines, while also repaving those streets and fixing sidewalks. However, we recognize that we have a lot of neighborhood streets that need less extensive work, such as paving only. This initiative will address some of those streets while continuing on with our water main work. In addition, thanks to the work of Councilors Steve Winslow, Ryan O'Malley, and Amanda Linehan, the city was awarded a $211,000 shared streets grant to improve pedestrian crossings and install bus and bike lanes. These improvements include a bus and bike lane on Florence Street from Main to Malden Center Station, buffered bike lanes on Upper Highland Avenue to connect with lanes on the Medford section, and a contraflow bike lane on Dartmouth Street. Together, these projects will create faster and more reliable bus travel times, make bicycling connections safer, and improve safety and comfort for people walking. Street and neighborhood safety were also the focus in implementing a Drive 25 program. Led by City Councilors Barbara Murphy and Peg Crow, the City Council voted to adopt a 25-mile-per-hour speed limit citywide in order to reduce speeding on our residential streets. The Drive 25 initiative encourages motorists to drive the legal speed limit in their neighborhood and helps make the community safer for people of all ages and abilities who are walking, driving, and bicycling on our streets. As we talk about safety and well-being, I see that Joe Levine has just joined the call. Joe, I know that during this crisis, even though most sports activities were canceled, the Recreation Department swiftly mobilized to support the physical and mental health of our residents.
Yes, ma'am. Even when the parks were closed, we wanted to make sure that residents had a safe way to get fresh air and exercise while following the guidelines. We opened McDonald's Stadium 7 days a week for those who wanted to walk and run on the track. We also adapted many of our programs promoting health and well-being, ensuring public safety.
Under the direction of Joe Levine, the Recreation Department had the important role of monitoring our parks during their closure, permitting allowable programs, and limiting activities that made social distancing difficult. Despite the challenges, the department was able to partner with Core Cardio and offer a variety of adult programs including bar, Zumba, and fitness classes at the stadium. For youth, in collaboration with the Malden Police, there were fitness boot camps, basketball skills and drills, and softball and baseball clinics. I believe Debbie Burke, Director of the Malden Redevelopment Authority, has joined the call.
Good morning, Mayor. Great things are happening in Malden. Even during a pandemic, we were able to install an inclusive playground at the BB School and make significant improvements to the Ferryway School tot lot using the Community Development Block Grant Program.
The MRA administered these projects, and both were funded through the Federal Community Development Block Grant, otherwise known as the CDBG program. BB School now has an ADA accessible playground that includes wheelchair accessible ramps, play panels, and swings so that students of all abilities can use the equipment. In addition, the upgrades to the Ferryway School tot lot are nearing completion and will also provide accessible play opportunities. This past summer, construction began at Trafton Park, which includes an expanded playground with new play equipment, ball field dugouts, benches and picnic tables, and a newly paved walking loop, drainage, and other systems. These improvements are Phase 1 of the Trafton Park Master Plan, developed last year as part of a community engagement process led by Councilors David Kamel and Steve Winslow. In addition to these improvements, the master plan envisions a new U8 soccer field, improvements to the existing outfield, a challenge course, and a plaza with a shade shelter. Looking to the future, thanks to the work of City Council President Neil Anderson and Councilor at Large Steve Winslow, plans to revitalize Kierstead Park and Tartikoff Skate Park are underway. They are in the process of working with the neighborhood to create a master plan for the project, and the hope is to include a recreational trail corridor along Willow Street that will link Lincoln Commons, Tartikoff Park, Kierstead Park, the Northern Strand Community Trail, Roosevelt Park, and the Salem Wood School. Also in progress are improvement plans for Deva Park, the largest park in the city. Councilor Paul Condon, with the assistance of Ward 2 resident Janelle DeVitz, has worked to develop a master plan for extensive capital improvements, and the project is expected to be completed in 3 phases. Debbie, I'm glad you're still on the call. I was also hoping you could give an update on what's happening along the Malden River.
The Malden Riverworks project actually received 2 grants this year and has continued to move forward with their project to create public access and a linear park along the riverfront.
As was reported in this Sunday's Boston Globe, the Malden Riverworks project is working to transform the city's Department of Public Works yard into a climate-resilient riverfront park. The project team recently completed a year-long community engagement process that resulted in a detailed concept design for the site. The transformation is envisioned as a 2-part project, involving the redesign of the DPW site and the new design of a public park. Most recently, we were awarded an Accelerating Climate Resilience Grant in the amount of $52,250 from the Metropolitan Area Planning Council and the Bar Foundation to support continued work on this project. This grant is in addition to the $150,000 that was awarded through the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Action Grant and will fund the engineering work to refine the design. Also focusing on the Malden River, Councilor Steve Winslow and I announced the establishment of a 3.2-mile, 5-meter walking, running, and cycling loop connecting trails that encircle the river. The loop starts on the bike path just south of the Bell Rock Cemetery on Medford Street. The loop was dedicated in honor of 2 prominent Maldonians, former Malden District Court Clerk Magistrate Joseph Crokin and Malden High School track athlete and U.S. Olympian Louise Stokes. The efforts were also assisted by the Friends of the Malden River and the Run Club of Malden. We are grateful to Elena Martinez, who designed the logo for the loop, and Naomi Khan, whose Malden business, Cambridge Reprographics, printed the signs. Despite the heightened impact of the pandemic, many new initiatives have emerged. Working with City Councilor Craig Spatafora as chair of the Ordinance Committee, we will be proposing an inclusionary zoning ordinance requiring a percentage of housing units in new developments to be set aside as below-market affordable housing. Prior to drafting the proposed ordinance, we conducted a financial feasibility analysis in order to develop a policy that would maximize the potential for new affordable units without preventing new construction altogether. With guidance from our advisory group led by Evan Spatrini of the MRA and the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Board, we have formed the basis of a proposal that will be presented to the City Council in the coming weeks. We also continue to make strides in modernizing our processes at City Hall. Treasurer Dan Grover has taken the lead in transitioning to a new online payment processor called City Hall Systems. This will provide a centralized location to not only pay tax and utility bills, but to also provide access to parking passes, municipal lien certificates, vital records from the city clerk, as well as other offerings. This implementation is in lockstep with our ongoing goal of providing residents with easy access to public services. This year, we also continued our ongoing assessment and improvement of our winter parking regulations as part of the effort to better balance the needs of our residents with that of keeping our roads safe and clear. For example, this past winter season, we instituted a warning first policy with the explicit goal of educating residents instead of ticketing. We also struck a better balance on the declaration of snow emergencies and adjusted our enforcement to match the strength of the storm. Recently, we formed a committee to do an in-depth review of our winter parking regulations to recommend further resident-friendly policy changes. Lastly, we will be implementing the long-awaited change to our pay-as-you-throw trash and recycling program. This coming April, we will begin distribution of wheeled trash and recycling carts to our residents. Despite challenging financial times, working with the City Council, we were able to fund the proposal. Special thanks to Ron Hogan for working tirelessly with our hauler, JRM, to find a solution that would work within the confines of our contract while also working with residents and city councilors in a series of feedback forums to come up with a solution that met everyone's needs. Thanks also to Ron Cochran for helping to secure $350,000 in grants that offsets the cost of the carts. Look for a notice over the next few weeks announcing the kickoff of the program. As we close the program, I'd like to speak about our businesses, and I'm hoping that Business Development Officer Kevin Duffy is standing by.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I am here. As we all know, this was a tough year for businesses across the city. With office workers working remotely and not utilizing the MBTA and customers being reluctant to dine indoors, many Malden businesses are dealing with significant decline in revenue. We've remained focused on what we can do to lessen the negative impact to our local business community.
First, the City and the Malden Licensing Board expedited an outdoor seating program. In total, 20 restaurants applied to have expanded sidewalk seating, and all 20 were approved. This effort, coupled with a relaxation of parking enforcement in the downtown, made it easier for customers to still enjoy all that our Malden restaurants have to offer. Of particular importance was the effort to help our businesses understand the many grants and loan programs being offered by both the state and federal government. By partnering with our Chamber of Commerce, we highlighted these opportunities and helped guide our businesses towards successful applications. As a result, Malden businesses received millions of dollars and were able to preserve hundreds of jobs. In addition to establishing an emergency small business assistance program, we also initiated the waiving of renewal fees for restaurant alcohol licenses. The goal was to reduce some of the costs of doing business at a time when the economic toll of COVID-19 had many restaurants barely surviving. Thanks to the Malden Licensing Board and the City Council for their support of this one-time reduction and for recognizing the role we could play in helping our local businesses. The support of the community also helped lessen the strain. Many residents and local organizations worked together to support their favorites by purchasing takeout or by buying gift certificates. Residents also utilized curbside pickup to help keep their shopping dollars local. And despite it all, we were pleased to attend several ribbon cuttings of new businesses making their start here in Malden. Speaking of new beginnings, I am excited to announce that we have been working with our legislative delegation, in particular State Representatives Paul Donato and Stephen Altrino, and plan to file special legislation to transfer the Malden District Courthouse to the City of Malden's control. We envision this becoming the new Malden Center for Arts and Culture. This center will serve as a multi-use performance space for dance, music, and small theater productions, as well as a place for art exhibits and classes. It will also be proposed as the home for Malden's own Urban Media Arts, formerly known as MATV. Located near Malden Center Station and with 2 parking facilities, the new Malden Center for Arts and Culture will be yet another entertainment destination and a reason for visitors to come to Malden to dine and shop. Finally, as we end with this exciting news, let me congratulate the Chamber of Commerce once again for not only hosting today's unprecedented State of the City via Zoom, but also for their 130 years of serving Malden's business community. Think about it. Through 2 world wars, 2 Great Depressions, and now 2 pandemics, our chamber has always worked to ensure that our city is ever ready to move forward for both our businesses and our residents. The motto, Malden Strong Past, Proud Future, has never been more fitting. Thank you for tuning in and be safe.